Bakersfield, and tonight it's my honor to introduce to you Don L. from Bellingham, Washington.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Don Landis. I'm an alcoholic. Absolutely delighted to be here tonight. Thank you, Carol, for the invitation, and thank you for everybody that's been so kind this weekend. I want to thank my good friend Tony and my beautiful sister Patricia for coming along and attending this weekend. Paid their own way because I'm too cheap to do it. I really appreciate that. And, but thanks so much for being here. And I've had a great weekend. Thank you to the other speakers, and they've been fantastic, and to the committee members who I've been working on committees for the last, 24 years in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I know that your committee is probably a lot like the current committee I'm on for the Mount Baker Roundup in Bellingham, Washington. We get together and we just agree on everything, and we never argue, and there's never any hurt feelings or dissension or jealousies, and we're just a bunch of basket of kittens is what we are. And you want to grow spiritually, do committee work. That's my advice to you. And as Carol said, I'm from Bellingham, Washington. If you don't know where Bellingham is, you go to Seattle and then drive about 100 miles north. We're 100 miles north of Seattle, 20 miles south of the Canadian border, America's first defense against Canada. So when Canada makes their move, you'll be looking to Bellingham. But we're a college town. There's a bunch of dope smoking hippies there, so if Canada did make the move, you'd be like, welcome, dude, But I dig it. I moved up there from Southern California about 13 years ago. My beautiful wife, Eileen, good member of Alcoholics Anonymous. She's sober almost 25 years, which is interesting. I mean, my sobriety date's 9/16/91, so I've got 25 years sobriety. I'm sober 10 months more than my wife, and means absolutely nothing in my house. I just absolutely nothing. But every year, every year on my birthday, I get to play with that a little bit, because for a couple of months every year, we have the same year. We have the same year of sobriety. And then, I have my birthday, and now I'm a year ahead of her, and I'll usually wait an appropriate amount of time, like, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours, and she'll be arguing with me about something, and I'll say, well, honey, you'll understand when you're 25, and but we're having a very good time, and God bless Alcoholics Anonymous and rooms like this and people like you. Man, I am just a low-bottom loser, drunk, failure at the game of life. I'm not a winner. I'm not a success story. I'm not a guy that's going to come up here and, try to impress you with what's going on in my life today, because that's not true. If you want to be impressed with anything, be impressed with a society called Alcoholics Anonymous. Be impressed by the loving God that's the glue that holds this thing together. Be impressed by the sponsorship and the men and the women that love me back to health when I couldn't do it for myself. Be impressed with something as powerful as the loving hand of God that can take a wretch like me from the gutter, from the failure of life, and raise me up, and not make me a perfect person, not make me a great person, but put me back in the game. Make me a member of society. Make me somebody my neighbors can count on, my employer can count on, my wife can count on, my friends can count on. What a blessing just to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, let alone be able to be asked to come up and do something like this, which I don't take lightly, and I thank you, and I'm honored, I'm privileged, but I don't think it's any less of a privilege just to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Oh my God, we're the lucky ones. We get to come to rooms like this with people like each other almost any night that we want, any morning we want. And we take it for granted sometimes how blessed we are that we have found each other. That we are no longer in the dark and we're no longer alone. And I have no real reason. I mean, God, when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I had all kinds of reasons why I was an alcoholic, and a lot of it had to do with my childhood story. Oh God, don't we drag those in with us? Because we've been telling them for years. We've been perfecting them, and then they beat me. We're the only people that have ever had abusive parents. We're the only people, my sister, Patricia, grew up in the same house as me. Same insanity, same alcoholism, same physical abuse. She's not an alcoholic. She's a very, learned woman, has a great degree, works in child psychology, helps hundreds of people, just knows how to do the right thing, doesn't have to go to meetings all the time and call her sponsor just to do the right thing, Makes me crazy, She's the good one, yeah. Same environment, you know. I turn out wretched, drunk, user and abuser of people, places, and things. And she turns out, you know, Mother Teresa. I mean, go figure, you know. It doesn't make any sense. So, but I came in here, and thank God we got a solution to that, and it's called the steps. You know, it doesn't matter if you come in here a victim, because I'm a victim. I know there's other victims in here. I know there's people right now that are hearing this, and they're going, yeah, I know where you're going with this. But my case is different. You know, if you came from the family I came from and went through the things I went through, maybe you'd end up a drunk too, and I don't want to hear that stuff. I get it. Tough neighborhood, poverty, beaten, alcoholism, all that stuff. I had all that stuff in there. But here's what I did. I got a sponsor. And let me tell you something. I'm going to give you a little free advice this evening. If you want to stay a victim, for God's sakes, do not get a sponsor. Because they absolutely delight in destroying victimization. I mean, my first sponsor, the more horrible the story was about my childhood, the more he laughed. He thought it was delightful. Oh my God, you hit me with a vacuum cleaner? That's wonderful. You know, he just loved that stuff. But I did the work. And I got a sponsor. They took me kicking and screaming through the steps, you know, and I got to the inventory process. And what happens in the inventory process? The real juice in there is that we get everything down that happened. No, it's the pivot. There's a pivot, there's a shift. It's the most amazing and necessary shift that will happen in an alcoholic's life, and until it happens, we can't get well. And the shift is from your side of the street to my side of the street. The inventory process corrects the only mistake that a loving God ever made. In my case, he made my eyes looking outward instead of inward. All my life, I've had a natural ability to look at the world and the people in it with no effort on my part tell you what you're doing wrong. Only part of the gift. The real power of the gift is I know what you should be doing instead. And I love to share that with you, because I'm a giver. And I got to that inventory process, and I wrote about that bad family and that dad that deserted the family and that physical, and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote. And you know what I found out about my childhood? It was shocking. It's over. We're in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous tonight, so I should probably talk about drinking. Tell you the truth, I love drinking. Wait a minute, you're sober, you're an AA, you're speaker boy, right? Yeah, I know, I get it. I didn't say I'm drinking tonight. I just said, you know, I got to remember, man, it's easy for me to tell you what alcohol did to me, right? What it did to me: jails, institutions, broken promises, broken dreams, skin and knuckles, and broken hearts, man. That's easy to talk about that, but I don't want to ever forget what it did for me. When it gave me wings to fly and then took away the sky, when it allowed me to step out easy and all my dreams came true, when I could create a synthetic existence and sit on the couch and feel that sense of peace and ease that washed over me, when I sold my soul for that feeling that vaguely resembled hope that alcohol produces in me when I have a couple of drinks. I don't want to ever forget what makes the big hurt go away. I don't want to ever forget that, because I don't want to ever think that I'm beyond its reach. I will never be cured of alcoholism. I'm a man living in a daily reprieve, and I know what I deal with is deadly, it's insidious, and it is patient. Man, it's got nowhere to go. I mean, you get off the train, you know what I mean? You get off the train, you say, I've had enough. And you get off the train don't leave. It just sits at the station. Oh, he'll be back. Well, it may take a couple of decades, but they always come back. You know, we run like hell from that train, and we got to keep running. We got to keep moving. Keep moving. You know, there's no coasting in Alcoholics Anonymous. Well, I'm at a plateau. I'm kind of You ever notice when you're coasting, you're going downhill? You know what I mean? There's no coasting in Alcoholics Anonymous. We're growing in understanding and effectiveness. We're in a street fight. Oh, we're in a tie tonight, you know, and I use silverware and cut my meat. No, it's very delicious. How's yours? You know, and I look like a grown-up. I'm all polite, you know, but I'm in a street fight. I don't know about you. I know what I'm in for. It's the nastiest fight I've ever been in. You know, it's me or my alcoholism. Somebody's dying, you know what I mean? But we're going at it. It doesn't go away because you get a bunch of sobriety and you go to a bunch of meetings and you're able to turn a phrase in the meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, talk about God. But you got to look, man, the enemy lives between my ears, right? He speaks to me in my voice, in my head. He's got all the time in the world, and my brain is his playground. My alcoholism will always have the upper hand because he travels with me. What do you do about a thing like that? You go to Alcoholics Anonymous. You start getting humble. How do you get humble? By trying not to. By thinking you don't have to do the silly things the other people have to do. And then you find yourself curled up in the fetal position on the floor of your house going, okay, I'll take the third step, maybe, okay. Take it away, God, I don't want it anymore, you know. Pain, touchstone to growth, man. God, I hope you were at the young people's meeting. I hope you were there at 1 o'clock. Man, my boy broke it down. He talked about mistakes in life and necessary ingredients. I'm going to tell you, you got to be wrong. If you think being wrong is a problem in Alcoholics Anonymous, get over that. Embrace it. Wake up in the morning and go, God, I hope I'm wrong today. And I know that's crazy because when we're new, there's nothing worse. Nothing worse than being wrong. And we need a sponsor to point it out to us because we never notice it. I don't know about you, everything that comes out of my head seems accurate. I know. I mean, I never went to jail thinking bad idea. I always went to jail going, good idea, you know. Right until they slipped the cuffs on. Okay, maybe I was wrong. But there's nothing worse than being wrong when you're new and you go to your sponsor and you tell him what's going on, you tell him your perception of the situation. And he goes, that's okay, kid, you're just wrong. And it breaks your heart. Wrong, how can I be wrong? And you argue with him, you know. You argue with his 30 years of sobriety, you know. You argue with it. You're brand new, I think you're wrong, you know. And here's what happens to you. You find out that change is not possible without first being wrong. I have to be wrong about something that I once thought I was right about. For change to be possible, I cannot evolve and change. I will live in the pain of the past unless I can be wrong. I love being wrong today. I get excited. It's always surprising. I don't want you to think that the ego ever goes away. And the ego is that part of you that is surprised when you're wrong. Let me inform you, you're the only one surprised. Your boss ain't surprised, your wife ain't surprised, your kids ain't surprised, your neighbors ain't surprised, and your sponsor certainly isn't surprised. That's your ego. I'm wrong, I'm shocked. You're the only one. But I get excited when I'm wrong because now I know what's going to happen. Now I can change. I can change, but we're afraid of it, aren't we? Oh, we talk about change in Alcoholics Anonymous. Well, you gotta change. You gotta change. You only gotta change one thing, kid. That's everything, you know. That's not true, is it, man? We don't want to change. We're sitting here tonight with problems. There's people in this room sitting with problems. You're thinking about them right now. They're not new, are they? I mean, some of them are decades old. But we don't want to change. You know, there's a great line in the big book, it tells us why we should take a fifth step. Now we know when we're done with our fourth step, we share with God and another human being in the fifth step. But they tell us a bunch of reasons. You know, the best reason first, we may not overcome drinking if we miss this vital step. But then it says, most of us found a solitary self-appraisal insufficient. Which means when we write our fourth step, which is a form of self-examination, if we don't share it with another person with an open heart and an open mind, wanting their take on it, wanting their perception on it, we are going to have an insufficient view of ourselves all the time. Now, we think that just applies to the fifth step. It applies to my life today. If I want to know how I'm doing, the worst thing I can do is sit back on the couch, carve out about 20 minutes and go, you know, I think I'm going to have a nice long think about my life. That's a bad plan. Because after 20 minutes, I'm thinking about getting divorced, quitting my job, moving to an island. My head is not my friend. My head left untethered, unchecked, with no conscious contact from God, takes me on very strange places. It's not my friend. It's not. I knew that this morning when I woke up. It wasn't my friend this morning. It's never my friend when I wake up. But that's okay, because we got steps for that stuff. We got something. So that solitary self-appraisal says, what does that look like in sobriety? I mean, how many of us have walked into our boss's office in the last month and said, hey, you got a minute, boss? Really, no kidding around. I really want your honest truth. Feel safe to tell me this. How am I doing and what could I be doing better? Oh, no, you don't want to do that. Because you already have an idea what he's going to say. You got a story that you're telling yourself, and it ain't good, is it? Because you already know the truth. You can't let that out. You might have to what? Change. When was the last time we sat down with our husband or wife? I'll tell you, I do an exercise with my wife, Eileen, man. I've been doing this for years. First time somebody suggested it to me, I thought this would be easy, right? You know, it's about the solitary self-appraisal. I'm just saying, I think I'm a great husband. Most husbands do. I'm surprised that my wife's not home right now writing a poem about me. I gotta tell you. But this guy suggested this exercise to me, and it sounded like fun, so I sat down with my wife, and I said, hey, honey, no kidding around, no nothing, you know. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate me? She had a number. It was not the number I was thinking of. So I controlled my face, which wanted to just go shock on her, and I said, okay, if I am perhaps a strong 6.5, next part of the exercise, how would I become a 7? She had an answer for that too. Didn't even have to think about it. You know what she said to me? She said, it'd be nice if you looked at me when I talked to you. You know what my reaction to that was? Internally, my inside voice. I said, I look at you when I talk to you. Of course I do. But now I said, okay, honey, I'll try to pay attention and I'll see what I can do. Now I'm paying attention. Do I look at my wife when she talks to me? You know what I found out? It's really hard to look at her when she talks to me. I mean, we're 30 seconds in and she's just not stopping, you know what I mean? And I just want to look anywhere but into those eyes, those tractor beams into my soul. It feels like scanners, like my head's going to explode, you know? It's like... But a solitary self-appraisal is insufficient, right? So I have to go into areas of my life. I have to go into work. I have to go into my marriage. I have to go into AA. I have to go to my sponsees, and I have to say, how am I doing? I have to go to my sponsor and go, how am I doing? I have to stay in that principle. See, we get caught up in the technical side of the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and we forget the spirit of the steps. The spirit of the steps. The principles of the steps. What are we talking about? There's not 12 sets of principles. There's thousands of principles in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. We start to embrace our humanity. We start to embrace the fact that we're imperfect, and we start to get help. We start to let God work through the people around us, and we start realizing we're not perfect, and if we want to be better people, we have to ask for help, and we have to be honest, and we have to want that information. But there's a lot of fear between me and that, because I'm a fear-based person. I mean, I don't have a lot of time tonight to talk about my drinking, so I'm not going to spend time, but I'll tell you this, I'll tell you the state I ended up in Alcoholics Anonymous, and you can fill in the blanks, okay? Because it's amazing that one guy with no outside help or intervention could have made such a mess of his life by himself. Always operating on plan A. Never plan B. This was me trying to execute. This is me trying to make me happy. I mean, what are we doing out there? We're doing a bunch of alcohol and outside issues. We're doing that why? Why? To try to change our state of being. To do what? To be happy. I mean, that's the human condition. Everybody gets up in the day, not just alcoholics. Every human being on the planet gets up every day and they go, I'm going to go do things that hopefully will make me happy. Even on a subconscious level, everything we're doing, we're trying to make ourselves happy. Now, that's hard to explain to the doctor in the emergency room who's stitching me up for the second time in a week and recognizes me and says, what happened, kid? And I'm drunk and I say, well, yeah, just trying to make myself happy. Kind of overshot the mark a little. But that's what we're trying to do, and it makes our family crazy, and the people that love us crazy, because they watch it, and they go, that's not going to work. That looks horrible. But they don't know, because what they're seeing is the outside life. They're seeing the failure and the debt. They're seeing the loss of job and the loss of relationship. They're seeing the loss of health. That's what they see, but they don't understand it's nothing compared to that spiritual malady, that sick stew that goes on in our gut that we're living with in a sober state. Why do I drink? Silkworth, in the doctor's opinion, says alcoholics like me drink essentially for the effect produced by alcohol. What's the effect? Ask a normal person. You'll get a very different answer than the answer you'll get from an alcoholic. I mean, I know my sister. She's a normal drinker. This is my favorite story about normal drinking. When my wife and I got engaged, Pat threw us an engagement party. And there's some social drinking going on there. You know, no big deal. We're sober a while. We're there, and Pat's in the kitchen. Pat just like fell in love with my wife when she met her the first time. She said, you screw this up, I will kill you, you know, and that kind of love. And so we're sitting there, and Pat's drinking a glass of white wine and talking to my wife-to-be, Eileen, and at one point, she sees somebody she wants to go talk to in the living room. She sets her glass down on the kitchen counter and goes into the living room. And I thought Eileen was going to flip out. She looks at Pat's wine. She sees Pat walking away. She looks at the wine. She sees Pat getting further, and she goes, "Pat left her wine." I said, "Yes, honey, she did." She said, "Should I tell her?" I said, baby, she's not one of us. She's not experiencing separation anxiety right now. Because I've seen alcoholics go over cliffs, down waterfalls, holding the beer. You know what I mean? We may drop the motorcycle, but we're not dropping the Budweiser. You know what I mean? Every alcoholic that's ever fallen with a drink knows this position. Every one of us. Dislocated 3 toes, and we're like, didn't spill a drop. Well, what's the effect produced by alcohol? Is it I kid myself I'm better looking than I am? Well, maybe. Is it I think the music sounds better when I got a couple of drinks? I mean, sure, why not? But that's not the real effect for an alcoholic. It's relief. Relief. Of what? Of what swirls around in my head in a sober state. Isn't that embarrassing? When you're not in Alcoholics Anonymous in a room full of people that understand, and you're alone with that information. I hate the way I feel when I'm sober. And I know what it looks like to my family, to my girlfriend, to my employer, to law enforcement, to my athletic coaches, to the people that bet on me and are now losing. I know what it looks like. It looks like I don't care. It looks like I don't love you. It looks like I'm insincere. But you don't know, you don't understand what it feels like to be me in a sober state. And by the time I come to Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm brainwashed. I believe all of us are brainwashed by the time we get here. And if we're going to survive alcoholism, we're going to have to get over this brainwashing. And it's interesting, the brainwashing is conducted by the very people that love us the most and want the best things in the world for us, right? Family members and kids and counselors and employers, people that love us, that are helpful in the world, that want good things for us. And they were in my life, and I know they were in your life. And what they said to me, almost to a man, was, "You're a great guy. Oh, you got a lot of potential. Oh, you could probably be anything you wanted to be if you just quit drinking. You know, you could go anywhere you wanted to go, be anything you wanted to be. You'd be so happy if you just quit drinking. All your dreams come true if you just quit drinking. If you just quit drinking." And when I examine that behavior, when I'm an active alcoholic, and I look at it and I go, well, yeah, it kind of makes sense. You know, went to jail, I was drinking. Smacked that guy, I was drinking. Blew up the relationship, I was drinking. Yeah, it's the booze. It makes sense in my alcoholic mind. But somebody want to explain to me why every time I put the plug in the jug and I just don't drink, I go flat crazy in my own skin in very short order. And I didn't understand that that was alcoholism until I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. I thought I was nuts. And I had to read in the doctor's opinion what happens to a guy like me when I just stop. And what it tells me in the doctor's opinion is I will reach a stage in my drinking where, as an alcoholic, I will admit it's injurious, which means I'm telling you it's killing me. This ain't mom or dad or the cops or the doctors. This is me admitting that I admit it's injurious. But the sensation, what it does for me between my ears when I drink, the sensation is so elusive. Nothing gets it for a guy named Don like a couple of drinks. Nothing. The sensation is so elusive that I can't differentiate the true from the false. But my life gets painful and I hurt people and I tear them apart. So I quit drinking because I'm brainwashed into believing if I just quit drinking, I'll be so happy. And in very short order, I found myself irritable, restless, and discontent. Oh, that's the biggest understatement in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I mean, it doesn't sound half bad. It sounds almost clinical, right? If I showed up at the meeting, my good friend Tony was there, and Tony said, "Donnie, how are you?" I said, "Well, Tony, this particular evening, I have to tell you, I am a tad irritable, restless, and discontent." Tony might say, "Well, oh gosh, that's a shame. Click your heels and say the third step prayer. You'll be fine." But that's not how it feels, is it? I'm irritable. I want to hurt you. I'm restless. I think I'll go over there. No, I don't like those people. Maybe I'll go over there. No, I'm not. Maybe I'll get some ice cream. God, I'm getting fat. You know, I just... those people look like a dog circling their tail, trying to find the right place to lay down. Nope, nope, nope. What's with Don? He's restless. No kidding, you know? And discontent. When I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, if you asked me what kills alcoholics, I would have said whiskey and car crashes. And today I say it's discontent. And that's borne out. If you go to the chapter, A Vision for You, page 1, last paragraph. It says, a serious drinker being dry at the moment says, don't miss it at all. Feel better, work better, having a better time. As ex-problem drinkers, we laugh at such a sally. We know our man is fooling himself. He's like a scared little boy, whistling in the dark to keep up his spirits. He'd do anything to take a half a dozen drinks and get away with it. And then the most important part, he will try the old game again because he's presently not happy with his sobriety. Let me tell you, people tell people in Alcoholics Anonymous, you don't drink no matter what. If I could drink no matter what, if I could not drink no matter what, I'd be home not drinking no matter what. And you can only stay around a joint like Alcoholics Anonymous, surrounded by people that have actually recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body with a relationship with God, with those gifts in their life before it makes you so crazy you'll have to go drink. So if you're not happy and you're sitting in here tonight, you may want to get happy. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about recovery from alcoholism. We're not talking about hanging on. We're not talking about fighting it. We're talking about recovery, position of neutrality, where the problem's been removed, where you can walk out free and easy. I got 100 problems. Drinking ain't one of them. Thank you, God. It's a miracle. We take it for granted because it happens around here all the time. Talk to an old timer. When was the last time you really thought about drinking? I don't know, like 30 years? Like, it's no big deal. It's amazing. Where people can't go a day without taking a drink, and now it's not even a part of our mind. It's a wholesale miracle, as the book says. But that discontent can be confusing, right? We don't understand it, and this is the problem with discontent. We think we're good at making ourselves happy. This is important. Listen to this. This is for everybody on a personal level. Take this into your heart. You suck at making yourself happy. I'm sorry. I suck too. I want to be good at it. I've been practicing for 57 years. I suck at it. You know what makes me happy? I never see it coming. I do service in Alcoholics Anonymous. Well, I got to get through it. Something I said I do. And you get done and you're happy. You're like, didn't see that coming. And you need to try to create something that you want. Because we come into Alcoholics Anonymous and we got lists in our mind, don't we? I had lists. I don't know if you did. I got 2 lists when I'm new in Alcoholics Anonymous. List 1, all the trouble I'm in, right? I'm out of trouble. I got warrants for my arrest in 2 counties. I'm $100,000 in debt. Owe the IRS $80,000. Haven't worked in a year. Haven't had a valid driver's license in 10 years. I'm not just an alcoholic. I'm a loser at the game of life. And I got this list, and I think, man, if all that trouble could be taken care of, if all that trouble could be repaired, and there's a line on the bottom that says, equals happy. Oh, I'd be so happy. Oh. And then there's a list, I can't even imagine, that dream list. Because you come to AA and you see the stuff that the guys that are ahead of you in the game got in their recovery, and you're thinking, what would that be like? To meet the woman of your dreams and fall in love and have a good relationship and be a good husband. What would that be like? What would it be like to have a career where they counted on you and you made enough money to take care of yourself and a family? What would that look like? What would it be like to be a homeowner someday? Like a real person, mow your own lawn. What would that be like? And you have this list you're not talking to anybody about, but you're thinking, this list you bring in Alcoholics Anonymous, your mind, the society tells you if you get those things, you're going to be happy, and you've taken that bait and you believe it, and there's a line on the bottom that says equals happy. And without knowing, we do it almost on a subconscious level because we're getting approval as we go ahead. We come into AA and we turn it into a self-help program rather than a spiritual program. And I got out of trouble, man. And I paid back the money, checked that off. And I went to court, cleaned up the wreckage, and checked that off. And I got a driver's license and checked that out. Now I got a job, check that off. And you go to the bottom, equals happy, and I ain't happy. Well, it's an incomplete list. Let me go get the other things. So I meet the woman of my dreams, and I court her appropriately. We fall in love, and we get married, and I check that off. And I got a good job and a career, and I'm making good money, and I buy a house, check that off. And everybody respects me in AA, and I'm the guy you point to, and you go, that's who you want to be. That's a hard, fast mover in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm 5-6 years sober. And on the bottom of the list says, equals happy, and I ain't happy. It's a funny thing when you climb the ladder of success and you discover you had your ladder on the wrong wall. And you got to re-examine these things we talk about in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm here to tell you today that what I have discovered is everything in my life, although my ego wants to compartmentalize what I call my problems. I have marriage problems, I have money problems, I have health problems, I have societal problems, I have politic problems, I have neighbor problems, I have problems. The truth is I only have one problem, and everything is a spiritual dilemma. Everything is a spiritual dilemma. The good news about that is if everything is a spiritual dilemma, there is a spiritual solution for everything that's wrong in my life. I like the idea of having one problem and one answer. How about you? I got tired of having 50 problems, I need 50 answers. I'm working way too hard. When I went through the steps the first time, I got to tell you, man, I had about 127 character defects. Imagine opening your front door and letting those little sons of bitches out. Go, boys! Go chase those 127 people trying to kill you all day long. It's exhausting being good, you know what I mean? And today I'm telling you, I got one character defect. It's the root of all my character defects. You may see a trunk, you may see branches, you may see leaves, you may see fruit on the tree, but underneath that there's a root that goes very deep. And the root of my trouble, my character defects, is I'm selfish and I'm self-centered. It's my default setting. 25 years in Alcoholics Anonymous, sponsoring men, attending meetings on a regular basis, having commitments. I woke up this morning, guess who I was thinking about? Every day. It's shocking. You'd think there'd be one day I thought about one of you. Just one. Nope. Woke up thinking about me again. I hit my bottom in Simi Valley, California at my sister Patricia's house. I hadn't worked in a long time. I was getting unemployment from the state of California. One day I got a check and I went up to my brother-in-law Larry and asked to borrow his car, and he asked me a funny question. He said, "Don, will you be coming back this time?" And I borrowed his car a few times that summer and got on little alcoholic vacations. We all know what those are. And the 12 and 12 tells me my outstanding characteristic as an alcoholic is defiance. And when Larry said that to me, I got right in his face. I said, "Larry, how dare you?" You know, the last time this happened, I apologized. Larry felt terrible in his untreated Al-Anon state, and he took the keys out. And I snatched the keys from this man who I'm mooching a room off of in his house to go out to get in his car, and I remember thinking, there better be gas in it. I went to the liquor store to cash the check because that's where alcoholics of my type cash their unemployment checks. I have what the big book refers to as the thought that precedes the first drink. The thought in my head is always this: what's in a half pint? Nobody ever got in trouble with a half pint. And I got the half pint and I drank it in the car, and they drank another half pint, and I had the bright idea: I can go visit those guys in the valley. I'll be back in 45 minutes. They won't even miss me, and I am gone. 3 days later, I'm driving up the hill to face the family I've done over one more time. I've taken their hope, their faith, and their trust, and I've torn it to shreds again. But I don't know anything about alcoholism, so I can't warn them. They don't know what's happened to me, and I don't know what's happened to me. Maybe if I understood alcoholism, I could have warned them, huh? I could have said, "I don't know what's happening to me. I don't mean to do these things, but bet your bottom dollar I'm going to do them again because I feel like I'm a puppet at the end of the strings. I don't mean to treat you this way. I don't want to live this way. I know what it looks like to you. But you got to understand, I have a front row seat. I feel like I'm possessed. I go out, I mean to go out for a couple hours, and this stuff happens. It happens every time. You got to get away from it. You got to save yourself." But I don't know anything about alcoholism, so I say things like, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. Just got away from me. Can you give me another chance?" And it got hard for my family to give me those second, those third, and their 30th chances when I roared through their life year after year after year. I walked into a home that had been devastated by the disease of alcoholism to face the heat, you know what I mean? I find out my brother-in-law wanted to report the car stolen, and my sister, had negotiated him down to a missing persons report. And the police have been called, and they're on their way up to do the follow-up investigation. Now, I don't know if you've ever been up for 3 days drinking and doing outside issues, but the police usually aren't who you want to talk to, right? I got warrants for my arrest in 2 counties. I start screaming at my sister, "You know I got warrants? You called the cops, I'm going to jail." "Thanks for nothing," because now it's her fault. I go outside to wait for the cops because I don't want the interview to go on in front of the family. I don't know what I'm going to be saying, but I know I'm going to be lying, you know what I mean? So I'm out there smoking a cigarette, and here comes the black and white, and on the side of the black and white it says, Canine Unit. And I think, oh good, they brought the dog. Like I'm in shape to make a run for it. And that cop got out and he started asking me those hard, tough questions that trained professionals ask, like, where were you? And I'm lying, man, and he knows I'm lying. And he's talking to me, and I'm getting uncomfortable. My hands are wet. I don't feel good. And I see the dog in the back seat, and I just want to divert his attention. And I point to the dog, and I go, so is that your partner? And he goes, why, yes, it is. And he walks over, opens the door, and this dog gets out, German Shepherd. Not a hair out of place. Like a Rin Tin Tin reincarnated. And with no prompting on my part, he started to relay facts to me about the dog's life. The dog's past mandatory retirement. They can't retire him. He's too good. The dog has participated in more arrests than any dog in the history of Ventura County. The dog has participated in more arrests and rescues than any dog in the history of Ventura or Los Angeles County. This dog was so phenomenal that the officers took a collection out of pocket to send him over to Europe for international competition where he kicked butt on German Shepherds. I said to the cop, I go, that's a phenomenal dog you have there, sir. And this thought flew in the back of my mind and stuck like a dart. The kind of thought, the minute you think it, you know it's the truth. You want to deny it, but you know it's the truth. And what the truth was, is this dog had done significantly more with his life than I had done with mine. I hated that dog. My sister wanted me out of the house. She had every right to ask that. I'm an alcoholic. I ain't too proud to beg. I begged for another chance. We negotiated. And at the end of my begging, when I said, I got nowhere to go, I'm so sick, I'll die out there. You got to give me a couple of days. I'll go to AA and everything, which was new. That was God, because I was not planning on being here the day before. Trust me. Because I know AA isn't going to work for me. I've been trying to get sober on my own for 6 years, doing everything I could, and I always drink. We don't drink no matter what. I had the opposite slogan. I drink no matter what. And I know that about me. But I don't want to be homeless, so I came to AA because I didn't want to be homeless. And I'm telling you, motives don't matter. And this is when my sister believed I was going to go to AA. I mean, first couple of nights, she took me to AA and picked me up from AA. You know how it makes you feel when you look the way I look and you're 31-year-old losers crunching your sister's compact car, driving her 31-year-old loser brother back to her house. So, Donald, what'd you learn in AA tonight? You know. Don't remember from my first night in Alcoholics Anonymous. I remember my second night. Most important thing happened to me in that meeting. I think it's something that happens to a lot of us that are fortunate. I think it needs to happen in more meetings. But without this happening, I would not be here tonight. I'm coming up on 48 hours without a drink of alcohol, and I'm between the 6 o'clock meeting that I've just attended, and I'm waiting for the 8 o'clock meeting at the Simi Valley Alano Club to start. And I got my back against the wall, and I got my eyes on the door, and I don't look the way I look tonight. I got long hair, and it's greasy because I don't shower anymore. I'm unshaven. I got food stuck in my beard. I've lost the ability to speak the King's English. I communicate in a series of hand gestures, grunts, and clicks. And I'm coming apart from the inside out in a meeting hall of Alcoholics Anonymous. And every molecule of my being is screaming to go get a drink. And every voice in my head in unison is telling me to go get a drink. And they're saying, look at them, Don, look at them, they're clean and they're happy. They don't want you here. And they're laughing at you. Why do you do this to yourself? Why do you kid yourself you're going to quit drinking? You always play this game to yourself, oh, I'm going to quit drinking. How many times, Don? 100 times? Why is this going to be different? You always do this. You make it 2, 3, 4 days, and then what? You drink anyway. Once you bypass the pain, go get a drink, go get a drink, go get a drink. And I can't stay with you another minute in Alcoholics Anonymous because I can't take the pain of sobriety. And I caught a break. Because over in the corner were 2 card-carrying members of Alcoholics Anonymous named Lou and Mark. And the story goes that Lou looked at Mark and went, whoa. And Mark looked over at me and went, yeah. And Lou said, bet we can't get him sober. And Mark said, well, we're here anyway. is the most powerful action we take in Alcoholics Anonymous. It's more powerful than the step work we do. It's more powerful than anything that we do in a meeting. It's the most important thing that occurs in an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. More important than the format, who's speaking, what the literature is, who made the coffee, who's got this commitment, who's the grand poobah that month. It's more important than any of that crap. The only thing that matters in the meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous is what these men did for me. They took a 30-foot journey across a clubhouse of Alcoholics Anonymous to cordially welcome a man who was dying from the disease of alcoholism. They welcomed me cordially to Alcoholics Anonymous. And if you want to know why that's so important that they took that 30-foot journey, if you expect me to walk to them, it ain't 30 feet for me. It's 1,000,000 miles. Don't you know what I've done? Don't you know who I've hurt? Don't you know I can't get my eyes off my shoes? I've taken every good thing that's ever come my way and I've torn it to shreds, and now I'm dying in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous with every fiber of my being screaming for a drink. And they understood alcoholism. And they carried the message to the alcoholic that still suffers. My only job was to receive it. And they sat me down with a half a cup of coffee, and Lou clapped me on the back, and Mark sat with me. He said, "Don, this is Mark. He'll be your sponsor." And he walked away. And they assigned me my first sponsor in Alcoholics Anonymous. And immediately, without my permission, I might add, he got a meeting directory and started circling meetings that I would be attending in Alcoholics Anonymous. And the reason I know this is he said, "These are the meetings you'll be attending." And I just thought they did that to everybody. I didn't know they didn't do that to everybody. And I remember thinking, that's a lot of circling. You know what I mean? He's going through the whole thing. And at one point, he stopped circling and said, "Oh, are you working?" I said, "No, I'm currently unemployed." More circling, more circling, more circling. And then he insulted me. Because if you're going to sponsor people, try to insult them as soon as possible. Oh, you can't help but insult a newcomer. There's no way to avoid it. You know what I mean? It's impossible to avoid it. It's like, "How you doing, kid?" That's a personal question. You know, it's like, "I think you're in my hula hoop." You know, it's like, Jesus. You know, we're so sensitive when we're new. But he asked me, he goes, "Do you think you can go home tonight and not drink?" That's just rude, isn't it? You know, it's my second day of sobriety, for God's sakes. And I turned on him. I said, "Listen, fella, any idiot can go a day without drinking." And he lit up like Christmas. He said, "Oh, you're going to be perfect for our program." I mean, that should be one of our mottos, shouldn't it be? First things first, one day at a time, easy does it. Any idiot can go a day without drinking. Because if you've been there any length of time, you know some days it comes down to that. You know what I mean? You just don't drink. You go to your meeting, you just hang on and pray for midnight. You know what I mean? It's like, everybody's had days like that, you know, where thank God it's got a beginning, a middle, and, you know, mercifully an end. You just go to bed and go, "Well, it can't be this bad tomorrow," you know. Sometimes you just hang on. But I got a sponsor in Alcoholics Anonymous, and he took me through the steps, and he taught me not just the steps, he taught me how to be an AA member. He taught me the dog rules of Alcoholics Anonymous. There's dog rules in Alcoholics Anonymous, you know what I mean? I got this dog. His name's Bo the Wonder Dog. He's 6 years old now. But Bo at one time was a puppy. You know what I mean? Cute little puppy. One day I'm on the phone with a sponsee, and here comes Bo the puppy. He walks out in the middle of the living room, shaking his little puppy butt. I'm talking to my sponsor. He just stops and takes a dump right in the middle of the living room. And I say, "Oh, no." My sponsor goes, "What is it?" I go, "Bo's crapping in the middle of the living room." He goes, "You have to go?" I go, "Nah, it's too late." Too late, man. I'll just freak him out, man. You got to wait till the puppy's just about to dump in the living room. Then you got to grab him. And it freaks him out. Like, "Why are you grabbing me? I'm trying to poop." You know, and you got to run him. You got to run him outside. You got to drop him on the lawn. And he's standing there, and he just looks at you all confused, and he goes back, and then he poops on the lawn, and you throw a party, right? "Yay, good puppy. Oh, you did so good." And he goes, "Oh, I get it. I didn't know you want me to poop out here. Okay, I didn't get it." And we do the same thing in Alcoholics Anonymous with newcomers. They come into our home groups and they just crap all over the place, right? They don't know any better, right? We didn't know any better. They don't know any better. So we practice love and tolerance and love and service, man. And we just love them, man. We love them. We teach them the dog rules. Because there's dog rules, man. My sponsor used to grab me after meetings when I was new, and he'd go, "Don, we don't get up and get coffee 6 times during the meeting. Don, we don't threaten old-timers and say we'll make amends later. Don," you know, there's like this whole list of rules I didn't know about, right? And so we teach teach our newcomers the dog rules of AA, man. And every now and then, man, we see it, right? We see a newcomer cordially welcome somebody to AA. Or we see a newcomer put out literature. Or we see a newcomer stacking chairs. Or we see a newcomer making coffee. And it's all we can do not to chill up and go, yeah, good boy, good boy. That's a good newcomer. Who's a cute newcomer? He's such a good newcomer. Here's a biscuit. You know, because that's what they did to me. The old timers did that to me. They watched me. And they walked by me in the most nonchalant way, man. They clap me on the back and they go, hey, good job, kid. God, it broke me in half. It's just that clap on the back. Good job, kid. And they walk by and I just choke up. Fight back the tears because I'm a tough guy. But they were watching me try. They watched me try in Alcoholics Anonymous and they saw me trying and they said, good job, kid. It meant the world to me. We applaud our newcomers that are trying. We're enthusiastic for them. We prop them up. We say, good job. And we do it shoulder to shoulder with them because their lives hang in the balance. And so I've lived 25 years in Alcoholics Anonymous, good, bad, and indifferent. The big things that have carried me through are active membership, always having commitments, and sponsorship. I've been sponsored and I've been willing to sponsor. I've been sponsored since I was 6 months sober. This is why I sponsor. I'll tell you this. 10 years sober, I got really sick. Now I'm talking about a little sick. I'm talking a lot sick. I was sick for a year. They put me on Western medicine. All hell broke loose. They kept changing medication. It just got worse. Finally, at the end of a year, they tried experimental medication. They said, you may have adverse reaction to this. They weren't kidding. I made it about a half an hour at work, man, and I went from like sweat flying off my body to being so cold I had a parka on, curled up in the fetal position in bed. You know, and the self-pity's dripping down the walls. I'm feeling so sorry for myself. Just feeling terrible. And I'm in so much pain I can't even describe it to you. And my phone goes off. And I look and it's a guy sponsor and I think, oh no, not now. But I got good training in AA, so I pick up the phone, you know, and I go, what's up, buddy? And he knows I'm sick. He goes, how you feeling, Spons? And usually I lie. Well, you know, I'm hanging in there with God's help at AA. I'll get through it. But I told him the truth. I said, how am I doing? Let me tell you how I'm doing. I'm in the worst pain I've ever been in my life. And you know what? I'm scared. I don't think I'm going to make it. I feel like I'm going to die. And I feel like God's deserted me. And I feel so sorry for myself, it's making me sick of myself. I'm just pathetic. And I got no hope. And I got no direction. And wherever I turn, it doesn't seem to be safe. And nobody seems to understand. And my wife's getting tired of it. And I don't have anything. You want to know what I'm doing? That's how I'm doing. And there's a pause on the other end of the phone. And he says, oh, God, sponsor, so sorry to hear that. Listen, I met this girl. We sponsor new people because they just don't care. You can buy a robe, go into a field and meditate and try to reduce your self-centeredness with God's help, or you can sponsor a lot of selfish alcoholics. You want to reduce your self-centeredness? Feed the newcomer piranhas. They will insert themselves into your life. They don't care. They don't care. Sponsoring new guys. I get guys, I take them through the steps hard and fast right away so they can get the same thing I got, which is a relationship with God. It's the only reason I'm sober today is that relationship with God. That's it. I got no power. Lack of power is my dilemma. I have to find a power by which I can live. It has to be a power greater than myself. Obviously, how and where am I to find the problem or that power? That's exactly what this book is about. We don't hide anything here in Alcoholics Anonymous. Somebody hasn't told you that's a spiritual way of life. I don't have enough power to stay sober, stay away from a drink, recreate my life, be of any earthly good to anybody else. God has that power. I got to tap into that and I don't know how. My view of God is obscured. My connection is obscured by pomp, by circumstance, by worship of other things. What am I going to do with about a thing like that? Come to AA, learn from the old timers, work the steps, continue to stay in that process. I don't work the steps and stop. I've been in the steps for 25 years. I'm in the steps currently. People go, what step are you on? I'm on all of them. What are you talking about? Don't you understand that when you go through the steps the first time, they're compartmentalized? I get that. You go to a newcomer, what step are you on, kid? Step 4, sir, you know. Spot me, I'm going to do a 9th step. Oh, it's a clean burn, you know. But that's not how the steps work, is it? You do them over and over and over again. You stay in them, you stay in 10, 11, and 12, right? And God reaches down, He pulls out the compartments between the steps, and what's revealed is referred to in the big book in 3 different places is what? The design for living. This ain't something I do like a gym membership. This is how I work out my solution. Solution to what? My life. I take the principles of Alcoholics Anonymous and I apply them in all areas of my life. This is my game plan. You are my people. I come here to you. We get together. We form a plan. Because I can't live with a solitary self-appraisal. So I need everybody. I need my sponsor. I need my friends. I need my sponsees. There's no dogma. There's no hierarchy in my sponsorship family. We're shoulder to shoulder. We're staying sober. We help each other. There's no fighting in the lifeboat. I'm going to tell you a quick story. I'm going to sit down because I'm out of time. 13 years ago, my wife and I left Los Angeles because she got tired of LA. She wanted to live someplace beautiful, something sappy like that. And so we moved to the Pacific Northwest. And it's different, man. We're concrete, steel, and glass kids, you know what I mean? We grew up in the big city, lived there our whole life, and suddenly we're out in the woods, you know what I mean? And it's dark at night. I mean, it's like darkety dark. I mean, the first time I had to go out to the car and I forgot the porch lights off. I don't have a flashlight, right? I got halfway to the car and a little voice in my head said, "Cougar." And I just flipped out. I skedaddled back in the house. I slammed the door behind me. And my wife's like, "What's up with you?" And I'm like, darkety dark. Don't go out there. 6'5", 280 pounds of Jell-O. And in the summer, man, the mama deer start showing up with their spotted fawns, and we lose our minds, man. We got wildlife out there, and I got deer in my backyard. I got baby deer, man. If you need 20,000 digital pictures of baby deer, I got them, right? Oh, man, we fell in love with all the wildlife. We fell in love with this one mama deer and this baby deer in particular. You know, because he was real curious and rambunctious, and he had this big wound across his face, big scratch. So we're city kids, we're naming them. That's Mama Deer and Scratch, Mama Deer and Scratch, you know. And it gets towards the end of the summer, and the deer start dropping their summer coats and putting on their winter coats, but not Scratch. Scratch is looking rough. His fur's getting kind of patchy. He's getting kind of bald spots. And, you know, I'm kind of talking to my wife about it. I go, "Scratch is looking rough." She goes, "Yeah, he is." And she's like that girl, man. She gets on the internet and researches it. It turns out it's an actual deer affliction. It's called hair loss syndrome. And the deer get it in their first year. And if they get it bad enough, they'll lose all their fur. Winter will come. They won't be able to eat enough to keep their furnace going. They'll get hypothermic and they'll die. And I said to Eileen, I go, "Scratch is going to die?" She goes, "Yeah." I go, "Oh, not on our watch." And we lost our mind, you know what I mean? We started breaking every wildlife management law in the state of Washington, you know what I mean? We're setting up feeding stations in the backyard, and when you're trying to feed the sick deer, you can't just feed one deer, so now I got 25 deer in my backyard. And like they're hitting the little baby deer out of the way. I'm in the backyard chasing bucks off going, "You're selfish, you're self-centered, let the sick one eat," you know? And it's not working, man, and Scratch is looking worse and worse, and I go to work and I'm obsessed with this baby deer, and I call my wife from work and I go, "Scratch show up?" She go, "Yeah." I go, "How's he look?" She go, "Not good." And I shake my fist at God, "Not this one, God," you know. And it's not working, man. We're feeding him, and winter comes and the snow comes, and I'm building lean-tos in the backyard, and this idiot newcomer deer standing in the snow with shelter 3 feet away. "Use a shelter, newcomer." God, they just don't take direction, and I'm just crazy about it. And finally it gets so bad he loses all the fur on his body, except a 4-inch wide swatch, 4-inch high from his neck to his rump. So now he's this fat, rounded out like a beer cake as we're overfeeding him, mohawk-laden newcomer deer, ugly, just sitting in my backyard, pooping and eating, and obsessed with this newcomer deer. And we all make it through the spring and he doesn't die. And for the next 3 to 4 years, every rutting season in the fall, when the boys came down from the high country, Scratch would come with them. And now he's a magnificent buck, huge rack, 150 pounds. And he'd strut into my backyard and walk right up to my wife and eat apples from her hand. And I'd watch that scene and I'd think to myself, what was it about that damn deer that made me lose my mind? And then it hit me. I'm that damn deer. I'm that guy sitting in the corner of the Simi Valley Alano Club with my back against the wall, with anybody with a glancing familiarity with alcoholism would have taken one look at me and said, that guy over there, he's going to die. And 2 card-carrying members of Alcoholics Anonymous looked at each other, saw the same thing and said, not on our watch. Not on our watch. And I got to tell you, Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob are gone. They left us a wonderful legacy, and they left us great literature, and they left us a lot to live up to. But it's our watch now. And why we've been in here this weekend in Bakersfield, safe, sane, and sober, I guarantee you this, they're out there in the streets tonight, and they are dying. And you know what's more interesting than that? They're coming to Alcoholics Anonymous, and they don't even know it yet. And they're going to show up like we did, hopeless, helpless, hapless, not knowing what they're here, looking for something they can't even put into words. But they're bet your bottom dollar going to show up in Alcoholics Anonymous in our respective home groups. And what we have to ask ourselves when they show up in our respective home groups is, where are we going to be? And more importantly, how are we going to be? Am I going to be in my home group, out in the corner, cutting up with my friends, talking about my latest business deal, who won the ball game, what we're doing that weekend, who's barbecuing, who's bringing the steaks? Or am I going to be like Lou and Mark, my eyes trained on the door, my eyes trained on the room, looking for 12-step opportunities? Or am I going to leave all that other stuff, all my worldly possessions, all my personal concerns, all that stuff in the parking lot where that crap belongs when I cross the spiritual threshold, which is a room of Alcoholics Anonymous, realizing that life's hanging in a balance here. We are in the saving lives business, and I'm glad that the men and women that were here when I showed up understood that. Or you'd have somebody else here. So I want to tell you this. I hope we stay sober forever, but I hope we remember they're coming to Alcoholics Anonymous. They're coming looking for us, and it's our watch. Thanks for listening.